Thank you very much. Dr. Lynn was correct. I'm a pioneer, but not in my own right, but in my own mind. So what I'm going to do here is a picture of El Capitan in Yosemite, a big rock, 3,000 feet tall. And we got a big problem in the United States, which is sudden cardiac arrest. 400,000 people have a sudden arrhythmia, have sudden cardiac arrest every year. Now, I'm telling you this mainly to aggravate the old school people here. One of my sons is a medical student, and I asked him about how often kids show up for class. So a lot of times the class is half empty because they have all the notes ahead of time. So they spot them. But you can get all of the slides that I've got already. I put them on the website. Or actually this morning, updated it. Just Google cardio-cerebral Boogaerts. I say that because I'm proud. The only reason it works is because cardio-cerebral that I named and Boogaerts that I named. But first hit will be the webpage entitled cardio-cerebral. It's all about sudden cardiac arrest and what to do about it. And in fact, if you go to that website and click on that, all of these slides that I'm presenting are already on there in PDF form. So I tell you that in part because I'm going to click through a whole bunch of slides real quickly. And you say, gee, I didn't get a chance to read them. Well, don't worry, you already got them on your iPhone or you can access them. So every month. Part of the reason is there's a lot of content on these slides, but I'm just focusing on certain small elements on each slide. So sometimes you don't try to read the whole thing, just look at what's circled and what's important. So there's the title of the talk, CQI for CPR, Continuous Quality Improvement for Cardiopulmonary Resuscitation. The reason that this is important is because if we think that cardiopulmonary resuscitation has been invented and we've already gone as far as we can go, we're fooling ourselves. Over time, things improve. New devices become available and we should use them. In fact, many of you perhaps don't know, because you're too young, that CPR wasn't always around. It was in the late 50s, in the early 60s that doing closed chest compression CPR became available. Before that, if someone had a sudden cardiac arrest, not much to do for it because CPR is not available, and I'll show you some information. So here is a EKG tracing showing ventricular fibrillation. Now, humans are always wanting to go to the next step. Oh, we got Ross, we have pulse, we can do things. This entire talk is about what's happening before you're able to defibrillate the patient, get return of spontaneous circulation, put them on a ventilator, and move on from there. Because if you're not doing things just right, during this time, you're going to deliver a patient who's in much worse shape once they finally do get return of spontaneous circulation. Because when you're doing CPR, and it needs to be done soon, it needs to be done correctly, and it needs to be done continuously until you have loss, you're not going to deliver a patient who is as salvageable as a patient if everything was done right. Only high-quality CPR can provide adequate coronary to the heart, cerebral circular perfusion. And again, when I say adequate, the heart does a great job. Your hearts are all doing a great job. Mine's doing a great job right now, pumping blood, giving a great cardiac output, 5 liters a day. When you're doing chest compression CPR, your cardiac output is much less than that. It's adequate, but just barely so. So it better be that the CPR that's done for your patient is done correctly, because it may go on for minutes, it may go on for 30, 40 minutes before you finally get return of spontaneous circulation. So even though high-quality CPR provides adequate coronary and cerebral perfusion, it's really just barely adequate. So it better be done wrong. So here is what this talk's going to cover. And it's going to be in several phases. First, I'm going to talk about how to deliver quality to any process, including CPR, which is simply a process. And I'm going to talk briefly about the normal physiological control of cardiac and circulatory function, meaning how's your heart doing right now when it's working. You have trouble hearing me? Okay. what your heart's doing right now, but also what happens, what are the limitations when you're providing cardiac output for a patient by doing CPR. And then I'm going to reflect on the scale of the problem. What is 400,000 sudden cardiac arrests every year in the United States? What does that look like? And I'm going to make a reference to football on that one. And then, despite the warnings of my astute and very smart colleague, I'm going to drop back a little bit just to recover from the scale and the scope of the problem and get into a little Greek mythology and show you a picture of Vulcan who chained a certain person to a mountaintop. Statue of Vulcan we have. And then I'm going to look at and show you what is happening when CPR is being performed. What are the important variables? Now, interestingly, as you'll see, there are many variables in what your heart is doing right now. There's preload, afterload, basic restriction, this and that. Not a whole lot of variables when you're doing CPR. There's heart rate or compression rate and volume, how hard you compress and how hard you don't get interruptions, that's it. So it better be that those three variables are controlled very precisely, because again, you're just getting adequate perfusion of the patient and of the heart of that patient. So things ought to happen very correctly. And then we'll finish up with the new technologies that are available to give real-time CPR performance quality feedback while you're doing CPR. In other words, you're hoping that you're compressing at a rate of 100 to 120. You're hoping that you're compressing a depth of 2 inches or so. But you should do more than hope. You should have feedback and know are you doing it right or not. If you're not, make the appropriate correction. Now this guy is W. Edwards Deming. He's a guru of continuous quality improvement. Basically, an American engineer that rebuilt all the factories in Japan, and then the Germans followed suit. While most of y'all, or a lot of y'all, are driving Japanese-built cars because the factories are so efficient. But anyway, he's sort of the guru of CQI, continuous quality improvement. And here's a profound statement by Dr. Deming. Standard work is the most efficient method to provide or produce a product or perform a service at a balanced rate to achieve a desired output rate. It breaks down the work into elements which are sequenced, organized, and repeatedly followed. And then very importantly, as goes through the process of CPR, each step in the process should be defined and must be performed repeatedly in the same manner. Any variations in the process will most likely increase cycle time and cause quality issues. I'm going to show you the answer to that. This isn't just putting a burden of, yeah, I better do it right. There's an easy answer that's just really emerged in the last, I'd say, 5 or 6 years. So now I'm going to give you a brief overview of cardiac physiology and the impact of human organisms. In other words, us, when our hearts are working normal. And I'll refer to the best-selling physiology text. Some of y'all may have used an Arthur Guidance textbook. In graduate school, I had to pretty much memorize that because I have a degree in physiology as well as medicine. And this tells you a little bit something about the man, Arthur Guidance. Now, from Oxford, Mississippi, University of Mississippi, Ole Miss they call it, he trained and became a physiologist. And the critical part, his most important contribution to physiology was his unique approach to looking and appreciating cardiovascular regulation through the application of engineering and systems analytics. So he looked at the cardiac cycle, cardiac physiology, circulatory physiology, and broke it down into components. I'm going to zip through this. Don't bother reading it. Just look at the stuff in circle. Control system. That's what it is. Control system. Control of what? Control of cardiac output. You all have memorized at some point, forgotten most of this stuff. I forgot some of it. Because I forgot all of it. But cardiac output and all the things that control, all of the variables that control cardiac output. And you've seen these pressure volume loops and probably understood those at one time in your life. But again, the bottom line here is there needs to be feedback. There needs to be correction of any error in any system if you want to control cardiac output. Simply, there's a reference set point, there's a sensor that senses what's going on, there's a control variable, and feedback. Again, this is circling things from the table of contents. Control systems, basic principles, regulation of the heart, heart's a pump. Because that's what the heart is. It's a pump made of muscle. And now, some of the bad things, ventricular fibrillation, cardiac arrest. Any kind of system that controls itself has to have two things. It has to have a sensor that measures what's going on, measures the value, and let the operator know what to do to adjust it. And this is about as simple as it gets. You have a set point, the control center, something that's sensing what's being done, and something that's making a change to keep things in control. Now back to CPR. In CPR, during this period of time when we're taking care of patients during ventricular fibrillation, before what we hope for, return to spontaneous circulation, we're in control. The good news is pretty simple. There are not a whole lot of variables. All those pressure, volume, loops, no, there's two things. There's heart rate, or how often you're compressing the chest, and there's stroke volume, how deeply you're compressing the chest. Cardiac output is heart rate times stroke volume. So basically, and importantly, that's all that's required, that all that those who deliver CPR are required to do. Deliver chest compressions at an appropriate rate, and deliver chest compressions and release at appropriate stroke depth. Now, most of the time people will give disclosures when they give a talk at the beginning. And I used to give mine at the end for impact. And some of y'all have seen my talks before, so you know what the impact is. But here's my disclosure. There's only one. Only one disclosure I have. And mainly this is to help Dr. Sutton realize why I use so much metaphor, allegory, aphorisms, and dramatic videos in this talk. And so here's my disclosure. In fall of 2010, so that's been about 9 years ago, I served as chairman of an ad hoc committee to set up the therapeutic hypothermia protocol at Trinity Hospital. It used to be Baptist Montclair at Trinity. And all I did was organize the order set. And February 2nd, 2011, I sent out this email. There's the email. Sent it out to all the physicians. The group I was with were physicians at Trinity and at Brookwood, and also the nurse practitioners, so they know what's going on. Eventually said this therapeutic hypothermia treatment is now available at Trinity. Again, this is 9 years ago. And please take the opportunity to review the attachments and look what the order set is. You know, what all is about a 4-page order set at the time, so that you can know what's going on before you have your first patient. And then 6 months later, I was coming back from an outpatient cardiology clinic in Aniana in the middle of the afternoon. And I had a VF cardiac arrest as I walked in. And my body, because it was a body at that time, was discovered after I was down for about 5 minutes. The security video showed that I was down for 5 minutes. They saw me, code was called CPR. I was fortunate enough that in the middle of the afternoon, the anesthesiologists were out of the OR, and I had CPR delivered by an anesthesiologist who, I don't know if y'all probably know some anesthesiologists. They're pretty concise, pretty OCD, pretty controlled. They're sort of control freaks because, you know, they're totally taking care of a patient during an operation. So I was fortunate enough to have an anesthesiologist, shocked a bunch of times, and then I'm taking the 5th patient in our hospital to get there to hypothermia. It's kind of an interesting story. And I say my coverage is complete, but y'all judge for yourself. And here, just to show you the scope of the problem, sudden cardiac arrest, 400,000 every year in the United States. 400,000 people. And I use the word because they are people, just like I was a people before I had sudden cardiac arrest, and I became a patient. And we'll say the word patient means the one who suffered. So 400,000 people, these are SEC stadiums, Alabama, Auburn, LSU, and whatever, University of Tennessee. You fill all those people up to capacity, you still don't have 400,000. 400,000 people in the United States every year have a sudden cardiac arrest. Some of whom have pre-existing cardiac conditions, many of whom, such as myself, don't. Some of whom have a simple narrowing of a right coronary artery that throws into the V-fib, easily fixed. But if they're not taken care of, don't get good CPR right away, they'll get their transition of care, they'll have, instead of sudden cardiac arrest, what they used to call it is sudden cardiac death. And still, as you'll see in the next few slides, the majority of patients don't survive sudden cardiac arrest. It used to be called sudden cardiac death. Or, I'll tell you, in the newspaper, you read about it and say, well, he had a massive heart attack. And that's just code for he had sudden cardiac arrest. It didn't have to be massive. It could have been just a small stenosis of an RTA when the V-fib detached. Or died suddenly. That's the other code in the newspaper. So if you see he died suddenly, died of a massive heart attack, probably he's one of these 400,000 that had sudden cardiac arrest. That's sort of sad. That's 1,000 dots, each of which represents 400 individuals. The survival is pretty bleak, 3%. 12,000 people of those 400,000 generally survive. So 12,000 is 1/10, or less than 1/10 of one of those stages. It's kind of sad. The good news is, with a totally appropriate system in place, we're recognizing quickly a person that has sudden cardiac arrest, treating with appropriate high-quality CPR, getting into a medical facility for treatment. You can increase that tenfold, from 3% to 30%, and possibly even more than that, maybe 40%. Still, that's a lot of people that don't survive. 4 stadiums, if you get 30%, you've got 1.5 stadiums of survivors, 2.5 stadiums of people that don't survive sudden cardiac arrest. So it's a highly fatal condition, and it's simply an arrhythmia. V-tach, V-fib, that's all it is. Now this is the part I've devised not to put in. The whole reason I put this in is to get over the shock and awe of that many deaths. And so I resort to Greek mythology. That's a picture of the Parthenon in Athens. And also it's the tie in Birmingham, which is this guy there. This guy, Prometheus, was punished in Greek mythology. Greek mythology, they had all kind of gods that did different things for different purposes. And before the Olympian gods, Zeus and all those guys, there were the Titans. And Prometheus was one of the Titans. And he allegedly helped create man, and he felt sorry for mankind, so he gave them fire. And they didn't like that. They didn't like the fact that he gave man fire. He gave man power to do things. And this is typical, this from Aeschylus, Prometheus found, that they didn't like it, so they said, you can have him chained to a mountain. Well, interestingly, the guy that chained him to the mountain was an Vulcan, called the Pisces in the Greek mythology, and said, why are you punishing him? Well, he stole your fire. He gave it to man. We don't like that. And this is the statue of Prometheus that you see more often in Rockefeller Center, and he's basically carrying the spark. He gave it to man, and that's a metaphor for giving men the ability to build stuff. Here's when the spark was first applied to ventricular fibrillation. And you know, today, the New England Journal in 1956. So that's, 63 years ago. Before that, if you had sudden cardiac arrest and fibrillation, nothing to do. Hadn't invented defibrillation yet. No defibrilatory pads hadn't been done. Here it's published, April 1956. You can defibrillate the heart. And here it is from the article. There's a run of ventricular fibrillation, shock on the 240, didn't work so well, shock on the 300, got nice silence, great party. Here again, turned up the voltage, 430, or 430, got. So the initiation, the ability to do defibrillation was just 1956. And of course, there's some things to do before. Back then, you've got to do external cardiac massage. CPR had not really been developed that much anyway. And even thoracotomy massage. Open the chest, massage the heart. We'll see a little video of that here in a second. And again, this is back in the late 50s. There, nice sinus rhythm, V-fib.
The heart is an exquisite pump. Perfectly timed electrical signals pace every beat. But without warning, those signals can turn to chaos or stop. It's called sudden cardiac arrest, and if blood flow isn't restored in minutes, brain damage will begin. In the late 1940s, with CPR still a decade away, doctors are trained to respond with a dramatic treatment.
The heart appears to have stopped. Open the chest with any sharp instrument that is at hand and massage the heart between the flat of your hands.
Physicians are urged to carry penknives at all times. An enthusiastic doctor predicts even non-medical persons will be taught to open the chest and pump the heart. But one doctor isn't keen on the idea. Paul Zoll envisions a better way to rescue hearts and keep them beating for a lifetime. One by one, he will address the challenges of cardiac arrest and pave the way for today's electrical treatments, some so simple to use that medical and non-medical persons can and do rescue hearts with CPR and electric shocks, without needing to open the chest. The year is 1950. The city is Boston. Upstairs at Beth Israel Hospital, Dr. Zoll cares for his heart patients, and downstairs in his basement lab, he looks for answers to their suffering. Zoll can't shake one patient from his thoughts. He watched helplessly as she died from Stokes-Adams disease, a disorder of the heart's electrical system.
Now this, sadly, was before pacemakers were available. Her problem was not such cardiac arrest. Her problem was simply a very slow pacing of the heart. And you'd say, oh, let's put a pacemaker in it. And the answer would be, they haven't been invented yet. And here was one of the early studies, 1966. 1966, when the description of pacemakers. Now we're going to jump from the beginning of defibrillation and pacemakers into the present, which is really the future that many of y'all may not know has arrived. And what this is going to show is a rescue team operating in Switzerland using not CPR, but because they're in a confined environment, using a CPR machine. Imagine that. And you'll see it in action. And again, we're going to get back to what we're using nowadays and what we can use in the soon-to-be future. But this is showing an anesthesia.
Wenn wir einen Herzinfarktpatient übernehmen, versorgen und dann möglichst zeitnah auf einen Herzkatheterplatz von der Uniklinik transportieren, legen wir schon prophylaktisch diesen Patienten unter ein maschinelles Reanimationsgerät, ohne ihn zu reanimieren, ohne ihn reanimieren zu müssen und ohne das Gerät anzustellen. Aber sollte er auf dem Transport innerhalb dieser ersten 2 Stunden Rhythmusstörungen bekommen und reanimationspflichtig zu werden, haben wir eine optimale, effiziente Möglichkeit, sofort einzugreifen. Und es muss nicht einer von den 2 Mann des Teams anfangen, manuell zu reanimieren. Über einen Zeitraum von einem Jahr haben wir mehrere verschiedene Reanimationsgeräte getestet. Uns erschien der Autopuls sehr einsatzfreudig und verwendungsfreudig. A, durch die Rückenplatte, auf der der Patient schon liegt. B, aufgrund der Tragemöglichkeit in dem Gurt. Und C, die Kompression des gesamten Thorax erfolgt durch das Bandsystem besser, unserer Meinung nach, wie durch einen Stempel. Abschließende Untersuchungsergebnisse werden Studien zeigen.
Das Ziel vom Autopuls und der ganzen Reanimation ist so eine kurze wie mögliche Hands-off-Zeit habe beim Patienten. Also, dass er stetig reanimiert wird, das rettet ihm eigentlich das Überleben. Das Gerät macht uns eine sehr suffiziente und professionelle Reanimation, wo wir als Mensch schlichtweg nicht nachkommen.
British cardiologist. So the niche here is not rescue in a helicopter, but is a patient who's in the cath lab, undergoing an emergency heart catheterization, undergoing emergency coronary angioplasty. And I don't know if any of y'all have been technicians in a cath lab. If the patient goes out and you need to do CPR, it's a little clumsy, you're kind of in the way, or you kind of some radiation going on. But again, a niche for a particular CPR machine.
So the first one is a 74-year-old lady who had an out-of-hospital VF arrest at just before 10:30 in the morning, and she got very prompt bystander CPR. She initially got ROSC after 2 shocks, and her ECG, once she'd achieved ROSC, showed an inferior infarct. But in the ambulance, she then developed PEA, and an autopulse was put on, and she arrived in hospital just over an hour after the initial arrest. She had ongoing CPR using the automated device while she got onto the cath lab table, and here's the picture of her left coronary. And you can see it's quite difficult to see what's going on because the heart's moving so much, but you do actually get used to it, and you can see here that the left coronary is essentially okay. There's some minor disease, but there's no significant disease in the left coronary. And I'll just show you another couple of views of the left. So you can, even though you've got the interference of the device in the way, you can still get quite good pictures of the coronaries. And there's another picture of her left coronary. And here's the right, and in fact, we'd achieved ROSC by this time, which is why the device is now turned off. You can see there's a very severe lesion in the mid-right coronary, which we stented and achieved a very good result. And she made an uncomplicated recovery and was home after about day 5.
That's important because you can see that it was just a silly little distal right coronary lesion treated with angioplasty. Had she not gotten good CPR from the get-go, it would have been reported she died of a massive heart attack. Instead, she went home after 5 days. So again, all of the balloon, the angioplasty, the stent, and all the stuff that we do is a lot less meaningful unless there's good CPR from the get-go. Now we flip into the past again, William Harvey, who basically described the circulation of the blood. Before, the Dr. Knight was talking before, interesting that he described the circulation of the heart and the blood, how it worked, because the year was 1628. Before that, they thought the blood flowed back and forth. But then he said, well, what are these valves in the veins? They must circulate. And as Dr. Knight said, well, oxygen had not even been discovered yet. So they didn't really know the importance of the lungs. But anyway, he described it, 1628. And I put this just as a lead into the next slide. Here was his homage to the King of England at the time, Charles. He said, the heart of animals is the foundation of their life, the sovereign of everything within them, the sun of their microcosm, that upon which all growth depends, from which all power proceeds. Sort of poetic, we call the heart like the sun. Jump to 1908, Jack London, and there's a quote right after this. And this is a guy walking around in the Yukon with a dog, and walking around the Yukon at 40 below, it's okay, you might live. The dog knew, but the man walking with him didn't know. It's 75 below, it's a whole different ballgame. Maybe you shouldn't be walking around. There was no sun in the sky, because in those northern latitudes, there are 24 hours of darkness in the winter. And here's a quote I referenced, because this has something to do with delivery of CPR. You don't have a lot of chances to make a lot of mistakes. And he says, when it's 75 below zero, a man must not fail in his first attempt to build a fire. That is, if his feet are wet. So basically, when you're doing CPR, you're already behind the 8 ball, and you really don't need to be making a bunch of errors along the way. And again, back to Edward Dimmy, the guru of continuous quality improvement. The real secret of improving quality of anything, in this case CPR, is to enlist the efforts of willing workers to do things properly the first time and to give them the right tools. Just a nice little shot of the heart. That's good. And just to remind you what the word patient means, the one who suffers. And that's a picture of suffering. Normal sinus rhythm suddenly degrading into ventricular fibrillation. And here's a little visual of suffering. Looks normal now, normal sinus rhythm. Ventricular fibrillation. This I thought was appropriate. I saw this guy just died at age 111, Boogaerts, the guy that developed the Chinese writing that we all see. There are many different dialects of Chinese, all with different letters, but he condensed them into the modern Chinese that we know. This quote has nothing to do with CPR, taking care of patients. This quote has to do with the fact that he spent time in Chinese labor camps, re-education camps, concentration camps, and if you become pessimistic, it doesn't work. In this case, as caregivers, if you become pessimistic about how your patient's going to do them, try to do things as right as you can, and then see how things turn out. And this is simply saying, what is cardiac arrest? And the reason they call it cardiac arrest is because the pumping function is arrested. Usually it's going from sinus rhythm to VTAC to VFib or PEA, but the pump doesn't work, it's arrested. Why CPR? So what does CPR look like? And these are going to be pictures on it. This, interestingly, is a series of shots of what is currently recommended for bystander CPR. Someone drops in the mall, they have sudden cardiac arrest, no pulse. Forget about the ventilation, just do chest compression. How does that work? Well, as the chest is compressed, not only is the blood pushed out of the heart, but the air is pushed out of the lungs. As the chest is released, decompression, there's some airflow into the lungs, and on. So that's basically how, in the world, hands-only CPR can work. And again, you can see cardiac output is acceptable, but just barely so. So first, CPR provides blood flow to the brain. If you get some cardiac output, give some flow to the brain, it moves blood not only out of the heart, but back to the heart, because the first two arteries off the aorta are the coronary arteries, the right and left coronary, so the heart muscle, the muscular pump is being perfused. And just to let you know, well, gee, let's avoid the concept of let's wait for the AED to get there, we'll shock heart. Well, no, if the patient's been down for a minute or two, their heart is full of blood, so CPR needs to be done first before you have a chance of defibrillating and shocking the patient back in. So you need to disabuse yourself of the, well, somebody's going to get the AED, let's wait till it gets to see how it works. Well, no, if the patient is in sudden cardiac arrest, if he lost his pulse, CPR while you wait to get things set up. And there's some data for that. This is from the American Heart Association, 2010, 9 years ago. Guidelines. Probability of survival if you don't get CPR. Those without CPR every minute drops by 10%. Not a good thing. So you're waiting for the AED, not doing CPR, wait for the AED, wait for the AED, wait for the AED. No CPR, it's been 5 minutes. They got a 50-50 chance of surviving. By 10 minutes, oh, they got the AED. Well, a little late. But, good news, with high quality CPR, it drops much more slowly. So even after 10 minutes, no AED, still got a 60% chance. Again, high mortality problem here, sudden cardiac arrest, but with Good CPR, even though you're waiting for the AED to get there, you still got a good chance for the patient to survive. And this is an article in Time magazine. This just occurred a couple of years ago. And again, an anesthesiologist involved. It just so happened that this anesthesiologist, who is a staff, is a faculty member at Stanford, was with a new friend paddleboarding in Capitola. Now, I didn't know where Capitola was, but I looked it up. And Capitola is right from Carmel, Pebble Beach. So if you're standing there on Pebble Beach watching the Open Sunday, you probably had a telescope to see it. Also near Monterey, near Salinas, where John Steinbeck was born, and all. But anyway, there's Palo Alto, where Stanford is. Here, her boyfriend were circling Capitola. This is unusual in that you'll see a person actually collapsing with a sudden cardiac arrest, a healthy guy that you'll see a picture of. The only reason it's caught on film, some guy was taking pictures of the seagull, had a little camera set up, was filming the seagulls, left it running, and what do you know? Here comes this pair out of paddleboarding, and he drops from sudden cardiac arrest.
Never imagined our first kiss would be her giving me CPR and saving my life, or that the whole thing would be somehow caught on video.
He was unconscious. I called for help and asked them to call 911. There was no pulse. We started CPR. When he stopped breathing, I gave him mouth to mouth. I told him we'd take care of him. 3 defibrillator shocks did nothing. Still no pulse. So the EMS crews took him away. Distraught and in tears, I called one of my best friends and I said, I finally met a really great guy and he dies on me.
Perhaps it was the magic of that first kiss that brought me back to the ambulance after the 6th defibrillator shock. But I'm fully recovered, forever grateful, and madly in love. We are paying it forward because most aren't as lucky. Every 90 seconds a person dies of sudden cardiac arrest, but
effective bystander CPR can triple the chances of survival. Find out how you can save a life. Join us at one of Paddle for Good's free Help a Heart CPR events.
CPR, flying jack, which is pretty good. This is a cycle of CPR we all know.
Some of CPR, but more important than that was the fact that a large number of patients didn't get CPR that would have matched appropriate guideline recommended therapy. When you think about it, CPR is a manual activity by an individual that doesn't practice very much. You know, if you want to be a good concert violinist, you practice every day and you really refine your physical skills. That doesn't work very well with CPR, so it's very uncommon for somebody to have a lot of experience doing CPR. And I think the message is, even though we have details on how to do this right, some of it is nuanced enough that if you really don't practice it a lot, you're not going to get it exactly right. And I think that's what was showing up here. Timing, the force of compression on the chest, most of those things are things that would best be done if you're trained frequently on it. And I don't think the way we train with CPR, you know, periodic exposures, is giving people that kind of training.
The solution will be provided. Just a nice picture of the heart. It's interesting, it's complex an organ. It's complex an organ as the heart is. To think that you can just compress somebody's thorax and make this thing work is truly remarkable. Part of it is because the heart has valves, so when you squish the heart, it moves one way and the blood can't flow backwards because of the various valves.
High-quality CPR maintains blood flow to vital organs, especially the heart and brain. The components of high-quality CPR include adequate compression depth. Remember to push hard, compressing at a depth of at least 2 inches. Make sure you position your body over the patient. Good body position, with the shoulders serving as the fulcrum over the chest, will help you use your own body weight to perform compressions. Consider a step stool if necessary to achieve this position. Adequate compression rate. It's important to push fast by compressing at a rate of 100 to 120 compressions per minute, allowing complete chest recoil between compressions, minimizing interruptions in compressions. Healthcare providers must minimize interruptions in chest compressions. This includes any pauses to deliver ventilations. When healthcare providers interrupt chest compressions, coronary perfusion pressure decreases dramatically and remains very low until compressions are resumed. It takes several compressions to build enough pressure to achieve an adequate coronary perfusion pressure necessary to get ROSC. And finally, avoiding excessive ventilation. The AHA recommends the use of audio-visual feedback and prompt devices during a resuscitation attempt or during training for real-time monitoring of CPR quality.
You can read this at your leisure. When rescuers press too slowly, ROSC is achieved in hospital cardiac arrest falls from 72% to 42%. So if you don't do it right, your results will be poor. Again, AHA recommends use of feedback devices. And now I'm going to show you what Boogaerts talking about. Does this exist anywhere? Well, it does. And where there is no vision, the people perish, a proverb. And the second line, but happy is the one who heeds instructions with wisdom.
The following items are displayed on the CPR dashboard. For adults, this includes compression depth indicator, compression rate indicator, release bar, perfusion performance indicator, PPI, audio and messaging prompts, CPR timer, and an idle timer. The R-Series compression depth measurement can also be displayed in centimeters. The CPR dashboard on the R-Series defibrillator provides you with a digital reading of each and every chest compression. If your compression depth or rate falls outside of the recommended guidelines, the background of the numerical value for rate and/or depth will be flagged yellow on the CPR dashboard. The R-Series defibrillator will also provide an audible message.
Push harder.
And a metronome will beep to help you reach 105 compressions per minute. This real-time feedback can help you ensure you are doing high-quality chest compressions. A CPR timer is displayed once CPR compressions begin and will count down from 2 minutes to help ensure high-quality compressions by a rested staff member. The release bar measures release velocity to determine that rescuers are allowing sufficient time for cardiac filling. The bar should be completely full of color. If the color begins to decrease, quickly lift hands off the chest for better recoil. The Perfusion Performance Indicator, PPI, integrates compression depth, rate, and interruption times into one visual indicator. Keeping the diamond-shaped PPI full provides visual indication of performance to the current guidelines. When compressions have been interrupted for an extended period of time, idle time is displayed in minutes and seconds. This is a visual reminder to help minimize pause time. The see-through CPR feature of the R-Series filters compression artifact from the ECG waveform. This results in a filtered ECG waveform labeled as FIL. This allows you to view underlying rhythms without the need to interrupt compressions. However, it is not intended to replace assessment, and it does not work in the pacing mode. CPR compressions should be paused when assessing ECG for a shock or no shock decision. If an apparent ventricular fibrillation rhythm is seen while using see-through CPR, ALS providers should charge the device while continuing compressions. Once the device is fully charged, pause compressions and confirm ventricular fibrillation in the unfiltered ECG waveform. Then press shock.
Connect CPR-capable electrodes like CPR stat pads or CPR D-pads, which includes an accelerometer with the combined monitoring defibrillation pacing pad. After compressions begin, it will automatically display the CPR dashboard, which will allow you to view real-time CPR feedback. The CPR dashboard displays several important items. You'll notice a bar representing each compression. The top solid line represents the baseline. The first dotted line represents 2 inches and the second 2.4 inches. You will also notice numeric readings of depth and rate to further assist. The numeric values change color when outside of AHA guideline recommendations. The release indicator lets you know whether or not you have come fully off the chest. When the bar is full, you have allowed for full recoil. The Perfusion Performance Indicator, or PPI, gives you an indication of the detrimental impact of pausing. As soon as you stop compression, the shape empties quickly, simulating rapidly decreasing coronary perfusion pressure, or CPP. This device can be configured to display the text prompt "Fully Release," which instructs rescuers to lift, or fully release, their hands from the patient's chest after compressions to allow full recoil. This prompt occurs 45 seconds into the CPR interval. By default, the fully released text prompt is not enabled. Above the PPI, you will see the CPR timer, which counts down 2 minutes. When CPR is paused, the CPR timer quickly becomes an idle timer. It can also be configured to issue voice prompts related to the depth of chest compressions as feedback to rescuers performing CPR. 2 voice prompts are available: push harder and good compressions. This is not a default setting. When chest compressions are detected, but their depth is consistently less than the target depth, the device periodically issues the
push harder
voice prompt. A consistent target depth will prompt
good compressions.
The audible prompts, including metronomes and compression feedback, can be configured for use in AED or manual modes. It can also be disabled for all modes. See-through CPR filters out the compression artifact, allowing you to see the underlying rhythm without stopping CPR. The top trace is the ECG with artifact. The second waveform displays the filtered ECG. At the end of the CPR cycle, you should verify the rhythm before determining whether or not a shock is necessary.
None other than the Birmingham PA Medical Center. This is several months ago, so I'm sure they're already deployed. Similar devices is what you saw that we give when whoever the code team, whoever's doing the CPR, and as you know, supposedly every 2 minutes, it moves from one person to the other. Rather than guessing, you see how well you're doing. If you need to do better, again, the feedback control loop that we talked about with guidance, there they are. They exist. And this just reminds you that it's not just a bunch of old, sick people dying. It could be somebody as healthy as, me, or you, that can suddenly have cardiac arrest. And if you do good CPR immediately, if it's controlled, delivered properly, then there's a good chance that they'll be coughing, living a life, yapping away.